So today's word is ambiguous, and so you are correct, Brian. So you're doing a good job of using your knowledge of word parts to help you understand the word. And so if you have a word like humongous and ambiguous, what part of speech do you think that is?
Uh,
Pardon? So does anyone remember when we talk about a word in speech, how are we categorizing the words when we talk about it first? No, that's the word parts, but we're talking about this whole word ambiguous. Okay.
Ambiguous represents a thing, right?
So you think it's a noun and ambiguous is like a no, pronouns are kind of a set list of words like I, you, we, us, them. Pronouns. So what were you saying, Ryan? It's an adjective. Good. And so this OUS ending, right? We have words like humongous, generous. Can anyone think of anything else that has that humorous, good, gorgeous, delicious, devious, perfect. Jealous, good. And so correct. So that suffix there tells us that ambiguous is part of speech is an adjective. So it's going to be a word that we're going to use to describe things. And pardon? I'm sorry, I still can't catch what you're saying. No worries. Probably more along the amusing path. So good. So when we break down the word ambiguous, you did a good job of what? Okay. You guys did a good job of breaking down the part. So we do have this prefix ambi, okay, which means both, like ambidextrous. I'm trying to think of other words. I mean, amphibious part.
Yeah.
Ambient. Good. Amphibian is kind of similar root, right? An animal that can be in both water and on land, right? What would you say?
Impulsive.
Well, no, we want a word that has an ambi in it.
Oh, ambi.
Yeah.
Um,
No worries. Yeah. When Bambi's mom got shot, it became an ambi.
Did he really die?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Well,
Is it almost like the prequel to The Lion King where it's like, Mom, get up, let's go. And then, oh yeah, and then his dad comes up. Don't make me relive that. Good. So ambiguous is an adjective. So who can remember what is the job of adjectives? Descriptive of what? Noun. Good. So we're going to describe things, people, places, potentially, probably more things. But all right, does anyone have a guess once again about our definition? That's good. It does have big, but remember, Andy is kind of its own, maybe. Let's check it out. So I like to use this online dictionary called Your Dictionary to kind of start out. Okay, good guess. All right, so ambiguous. Okay, we have four really nice definitions here. Sorry, you guys can't read that. There we go. So, pardon?
read what?
The definition of the word ambiguous.
Oh.
Yeah, right. So ambiguous can mean open to more than one interpretation, having two or more possible meanings, doubtful or uncertain, and hopefully it makes sense, right? That if something is ambiguous, we don't really clearly have, one clear interpretation. So if we describe something as ambiguous, we're saying, right, we don't really have enough, kind of to give us more than just kind of like a meh. Yes, Ryan.
Which you saying it's just pain and apprehensive.
What word?
Apprehensive.
No, because apprehensive is way more of, right, an emotion, right, that you're going to describe a person experiencing. If something's ambiguous, once again, yeah, so we might say that something isn't ambiguous to infer, right, that we're doubtful or uncertain, but it's not, it's really more these top two, right, are kind of the main definition. So, and then if we kind of, I guess we could say like extend the metaphor, extend the meaning out, because something that's ambiguous is open to multiple interpretations. This is kind of the effect that that quality has, if that makes sense, right? And so because it is open to more than one interpretation, someone might use it to imply, right? So that you infer they're not very certain about this thing because there's all these kind of multiple interpretations. And so once again, if something is ambiguous, because it has these multiple meanings, it can come off as unclear, indefinite. Do you guys know the word vague? This word?
Obscure.
Exactly, beautiful.
I bet you mean that, I bet you.
Yeah, ambiguous is an ambiguous word. Beautiful. Not necessarily. I mean, artistically sometimes, right? An artist will be ambiguous so that it's, the interpretation experience of the art is left to the person viewing the art.
Whoever's reading the picture. Right?
What do you mean?
Said an artist, art, and when a person it's like the saying, the artist and art. And like when the person sees what the artist is trying to talk about, like people think about it like by their own freaking perspective or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, wait, no, that's not actually what he was talking about. It's talking about more of a different detail of what you think.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, art can be very ambiguous in that people can have definitely different reactions and experiences to it. And the way that they see it, the way that they might perceive it. So, yeah. If you've ever watched, I always feel like movies from the 1970s are the ones that have these weird ambiguous endings. If you've ever seen like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, it like just like ends on them like running out to their death, probably, but it doesn't like finish it, so it kind of leaves it once again. Trying to think of other movies that have like a Memento, Sopranos, the end of that show. Yep, right, leaves it open. What was the one where it was all a dream? That's like Super Mario 2. Like, what was it in real life? But yeah, so anytime where it's like there's multiple takes, and of course, when we think about our task dealing with like G level complexity of ideas, ambiguity is something we have to kind of deal with and take in. So,
Knowledge.
yes, I like that. Thank you. Oops. Uh-oh.
The dog is trying to get in to class. And it's asking about the code. And the code, she said, you usually put out isn't working.
Okay, so the password.
All one.
Yeah, that's not the one she's using.
I don't know.
Okay.
She didn't say. She just said what she used didn't work.
Okay.
Because the link she can find in Canvas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I told her, but she said the code isn't working. Is that the code that's in
Usually-
Canvas?
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
So, a way to sometimes bypass it is rather than going through Canvas, if you, whatever her device is that she's on, she can open the Zoom app and hit join meeting and enter the meeting ID in the passcode, that might help. You want me to write it down?
I can't. That's something to do.
Oh, you know, we're just studying, we're learning the word ambiguous, actually.
No. I'm just introverted.
I'm just gonna be good. So yeah. Okay.
Are we gonna be doing more words today?
No,
Well,
this is really just kind of gonna be one of our possible warm-ups that we might work out. Inserting. Okay, sorry. Spelling's hard, guys. You guys know that, right?
yes.
Thank you. All right. What do you?
Sure, why not?
Oh, thank you.
Spelled that one wrong.
Which one?
Just kidding.
I mean, usually Google's good at telling me when I've misspelled things, so. All right, so I've already kind of said a few words, and if we go here, right, when we were searching the word ambiguous, right, we already get a different form of the word here, ambiguously. Does anyone know what part of speech ambiguously would be? Format and shit. Sorry.
Past ten or not past. No,
Well. So all we have done, right, to change the form of ambiguous is add an additional suffix here. Does anyone know if we have a ly ending on a word, what part of speech it is?
What is it?
Ambiguously.
Ambiguous.
What part of speech would it
like,
be?
indefinite.
Adverb. Thank you, Valerie. So ly is often added to adjectives to create adverbs. It's definitely kind of the most famous adverb suffix. So we can describe things, right, as ambiguous, but we can also say that something was done, right, ambiguously. And that would be an adverb, and we would be describing, you know, if, either someone's actions or someone's appearance, right? Right, if you dress ambiguously, right, you're not really showing one specific gender per se.
Yeah, we talking about doing ambiguous like.
Yeah. But since it's an adverb, okay, ambiguously is going to either describe verbs or adjectives.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I-
yep.
yes.
So I think I said this word. But another form of the word ambiguous is the word, ambiguity. I think so. What do you think ambiguity is? What part of speech? Oops.
Like the philosophy of the definition of what is behind it?
So remember here that when we look at alternative forms of the word, like, so we're basically kind of taking our base word and either adding suffixes or changing the suffixes. Once again, right, we look for kind of what is different here, right? It's the, right, instead of our adjective ending, we kind of shaved that off and changed out for an ity ending. So if I take off my suffix that makes an adjective and change it out for ity, what kind of word have I made if I have an ambiguity? A noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb.
Uh, uh, uh,
Now,
Good. So remember, so hopefully this is part of what we're doing as far as, doing this activity is to hopefully begin to see and recognize the connection between our suffixes, our word endings, and our part of speech. Anaretta, I think you finally made it in. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Glad
Sorry.
you made it finally. Hopefully you got signed in. We're just doing our vocabulary journal for the day.
Okay.
I'm gonna here, oh, hi Ryan. So you'd have to join Zoom if you'd like. So you'd have to click on the Zoom meeting. No, you're more than welcome to. So we have words like ambiguously, ambiguity. So ambiguity, right? Because it's a noun, now we've taken this idea of open to two or more interpretations, and ambiguity is actually the thing, right? That is open. Okay. So when we create an adverb form, right? We can now describe adjectives and actions. When we make a noun form, we can kind of make a thing, right? And so, right, we can say the ambiguity in the movie is that the ending is open to multiple interpretations. You don't know if the heroes made it or not. Probably not. Well, I don't know. Maybe you guys are more optimistic than me. Okay. This, sorry. If we just kind of read a little bit more about the word, moving from side to side is another kind of literal definition of the word ambiguous. It comes from Latin. And so ambigere, to go about, wander, and doubt. And once again, right, we see our prefix ambi, right, which around, about, or both is usually how I think about it. And then this idea of driving or moving. So moving, right, in both directions, or oscillating, right, from side to side. And so hopefully you kind of see, right, and so even if you know the word amble, right, which is kind of like strolling. I think in Spanish you say andar, just to walk, like walk around. And so hopefully that helps you once again kind of get a feel for the flavor of the word. We can see another form of the word here. Unambiguous. What part of speech would unambiguous be?
all. I mean. Hard, we have different needs.
Is it an adjective, a noun, a verb, an adverb, a preposition?
And I. What's that? That's a shame.
Good. Why is it an adjective?
Like this, describing. Pause. In.
Good, and right, once again, instead of changing or adding to our suffix, ambiguous, we're adding a prefix. So we haven't changed the form of the word because we didn't do anything to our suffix. We just added this prefix. So if we know what ambiguous describes, can anyone guess what something that is unambiguous would be?
One interpretation.
Good. Why do you say that? Only one interpretation.
There would be one.
Good. And so un is one of those prefixes that we add to the front of the word to basically kind of mean the opposite, right? And so if something is unambiguous, then we're saying it does have a clear interpretation, right? There's no other possible kind of avenue that it could take. Okay. And so once again, artistically is, it's okay to be ambiguous, but if we're trying to write an essay or be persuasive, we want to make sure we're being unambiguous, right? Clear and focused and direct, and people can follow where we're going. So that's another form of the word. I'm trying to think if I can think of any other off the top of my head, but I can't. Oops. That's a good word. Yeah. A very old classic British term. So here is a little bit more of a, what do I want to call it? A little bit more extensive, I guess, of a definition. Pardon?
Marching.
Well, the origin we already looked at, but we'll look at it here in a sec too. And so once again, we have this idea of open to or having several interpretations. So once again, an ambiguous answer. That's always when you like pretend that your mom said yes and didn't quite hear something. They're like, oh, I think she said yes, right? Or yeah, it's a mumble, right? In linguistics, you don't have to worry about that. But once again, because of what kind of that first kind of overarching meaning of ambiguous is, once again, we can describe something as ambiguous, implying that idea of, because it's so kind of open, I'm not very sure that this is a good idea because I don't feel like it gives us like a clear direction or path, right? Lacking clearness or definite. And so you get that nice word obscure that you use. Ooh, enigmatic or puzzling. So of course, once again, the direct opposite of ambiguous would be unambiguous, but we could also use words like precise and clear. I didn't add antonyms, but we were going to look at synonyms here in a sec. So other forms of the word. So once again, we have ambiguity, but we also have the word ambiguousness. Does anyone have any ideas what ambiguousness, what part of speech we would have there? Ambiguous. So ambiguousness to the store.
Nah, never mind.
Okay. Well, think about what we're doing here, right? So we have our original word, and then we've added a suffix. Okay.
That's like a remember.
So does anyone else know any other words that end with ness?
Ridiculousness.
Ridiculousness. What part of speech is that? Is it a noun, a verb, an adverb?
Maybe it's a pronoun.
Or about kind.
Not a pronoun, it's just a noun, right?
Noun.
Yeah, like happiness too, right? Or thankfulness. There's lots
And
of.
a lot of words can end with this.
Yeah. And that's because, right, we want to take our adjectives, and when we add ness, so once again, if we add the ity, yes, Ryan.
Oh, after you're done, I'm gonna share something up so I remember whatever.
Thank you. So we have two different suffixes we can add that give us two different noun forms of our word. And so ambiguousness, and you could actually have unambiguousness too. You can have a really long fancy word. You can impress all the people. Right? So here we're talking about a thing that has the quality of ambiguous. If it's ambiguousness, we're saying this is the quality, right? It's a noun, it's a thing, like I said, like with happiness, ridiculousness, sadness, right? And so we use that NESS suffix. We add it to that adjective form to create a noun that basically turns the like description into an actual quality that we would say is like an abstract thing, right? We can't necessarily see happiness, we can't like bottle it, right? It's not a physical thing, but we still want to name it because it is a hopefully a feature of our realities to the best of our abilities, no pressure. All right. Anthony mentioned synonyms on Monday, so these are going to be words that have the same meaning that we can kind of use in the same way. And so synonyms are going to be the same part of speech as our main word, whereas, right, remember our alternative forms, oftentimes what we're doing, right, is adding suffixes to change the part of speech. But once again, the flavor of the definition is still there. Like, just how do we want to use this word? Descriptively, or do we want to treat it as an actual thing? So synonyms are usually found in thesauruses. Here, this dictionary is kind of giving us some kind of other ways of looking at the synonyms. Go away, tomfoolery. Is it tomfoolery? Guess it's not gonna go away. You have to pay for one. So yeah, so we could use words like obscure, indistinct, enigmatic, like you said. Personally, I like obscure. No, stop it. Figure it out. I don't like it. Sorry. Indistinct. Okay. I like dictionary.com usually, yeah, because you can just tab over to the thesaurus. I like the app too. So yeah, right. And so one thing I like about the thesaurus is that it tells us kind of the closest ones, right? The strongest synonyms. And so while these ones down here are still mostly okay, they're probably a little bit weaker, right? And if we want a closer synonym to ambiguous, then we probably want to choose one of these. Yes, Ryan. Are you doing your verb thing now?
No, I
Okay.
know. You've been quite, deep through coughing. God, that's hard.
Oh, interesting. Well, I guess we have two different, yeah, I don't think I've heard it. So we could also use words like unclear, uncertain. So there's quite a bit of synonyms here, right?
Kind of what that thought there.
Okay. All right, go for it. So Ryan's gonna let us know how to remember if something is a verb.
And it's pretty funny.
Okay, is it clean? Okay,
And here there's a movie about and the English teacher. What is what's the verb when you list? And yeah, I'm with you. I don't know.
that's a good one. Yeah, so yeah, you can always, I mean, if you, once again, if you're familiar with where parts of speech live in sentences, that's a really good way of testing it. So, like I said, I like to do Google image searches just to kind of see, you know, what pictures and images, are being associated with ambiguous. And so right away we see these optical illusion pictures. Are you guys familiar with the optical illusions? Like, well, like if you look at, let me see if I can.
It looks like a candle holder or two faces.
Yep. So that one, sorry, it's really small on my screen. Hopefully it doesn't, yeah. So do you see, what animal do you see in the picture?
Dog.
Okay,
Must be an asteroid.
does everyone see a duck?
Yeah.
Does anyone see a rabbit? I see a rabbit.
Right, two ball.
Good, exactly.
Rabbit.
So we would say, right, that this optical illusion, because it allows us to interpret, right, what we see in multiple or at least two ways, we would say it's ambiguous. And so same here, you see, like, this one's pretty famous too. Oop. So who do you see in this picture?
Skunk.
A convention.
A skunk?
You know.
It's like a lady in the middle.
Yeah, like a young lady with like her eyelashes right here in her nose, and she's got a little feather. Yeah. Does anyone see an old lady? Like if this is the nose and
Oh,
this
yeah,
is her
upside
mouth.
down.
It looks like a Native American.
She's kind of got like a big fur on. Yeah, it does kind of look like that. So yeah, there's supposed to be both a young woman and an old woman in this picture. Well, it might be a little hard to see, but yeah, I don't think I've seen these ones. I think they're, I guess, faces that are other shape. So yeah, so here, right, ambiguous. Oh, there's a different rabbit. That's a weird rabbit. But yeah, this one is also pretty famous, right? Do you see the silhouettes or do you see the base? Here, kind of funny, right? The chicken is ready to eat, right? We don't know what we mean by that sentence if that's the only information we have, right? Is it literally a chicken, right? Who is expecting a meal, or does that mean that our meal is ready to eat? This is one that I used to have this image. I can't remember why well, I mean, it's cool. It's called like, I think it's called Vanity. But you can see, right, like the skull, but hopefully you can also see the woman's reflection in the mirror. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. And, like, I think I had a better background. But I definitely always like these ones. So hopefully, hopefully these images, once again, I always like to connect them because it just really helps me kind of get a sense of what's going on. I used to hand draw, but luckily we live in 2025, so I will just cut and paste in a prettier picture. What are you doing? I hate you. Sorry, I understand some people use Google a lot. My favorite. I gotta get over it. Okay. There. Dung or rabbit. And then why don't you guys go ahead? I know this took a little bit longer than maybe we expected, but I want everyone right now to write a sentence using the word ambiguous. And if you're on Zoom, type your sentence into the chat. If not, write it down however you would like. But go ahead and create your own sentence using the word ambiguous. Okay. Did you write I am ambiguous?
No.
Okay.
Miss Julie's cup's ambiguous,
In what way? Oh, lots to interpret on there.
really green.
My hair color is a little ambiguous. Charge that. Can't decide if I should cut it. Okay. Yep, you are correct, Brian. You did misspell ambiguous in the chat.
No.
Typo. Just kidding.
Oh, I meant ambiguous. I am.
Yeah. You typed too quickly. Although the A and the I are kind of far apart on the old keyboard.
I don't know what that.
It's fine. We could joke around. I know, if you remember on South Park, they called Dr. Pepper, why can't I say the word agnostic? We could almost say Dr. Pepper's like an ambiguous soda pop. App is also agnostic. All right, anyone else on Zoom got their sentence written? Ah, Sam is ambiguous. I don't know who Sam is, but I agree. I mean, you can describe someone as ambiguous. I don't know if you guys watched SNL in the late nineties, but they had the cartoon, The Ambiguously Gay Duo. So of course, if you are ambiguously gay, it's not clear, right? What your true sexual preferences are, but those guys were, it's pretty funny. I guess it might be outdated. Might not. Pardon?
I still watch Saturday Night Live.
I do too. I don't know if it's like, you know, some jokes can last the test of time. Other tastes go in and out of favor depending on where we are in time. So kind of always be like, I don't know. I feel like this day and age, you have to be like, wait, are we still allowed to think this way? Or am I gonna, you know, seriously offend and traumatize somebody?
I mean, like. Oh, I mean, we have a freedom of speech.
Oh, yeah, and it's their choice to be offended, I agree. Right?
Base.
Ambition, okay, sorry, excuse me. So. Yeah, it still uses that same prefix. And you know, like it's saying here, it's probably closer to like ambient, which means more of like around than both. Yeah, good, Kayla, I like it. I like your sentence, beautiful. I might have to steal it for our journal if you mention. Anything else about sentence with ambiguous that you could share or write in the chat, Robert?
The politicians were ambiguous on issues pertaining to our country's law.
Beautiful. Can you give me an example of an issue that you think is like that? Well, that's kind of the big forest, not a tree.
This would pick the right leader.
Yeah, I mean, I would say right now, you know, the whole like Palestine-Israel thing, like kind of a huge mess, but it seems like everyone's kind of like trying to be nice to Israel, but it's like, could they please stop like committing genocide kind of thing? So I feel like that's an area of ambiguity, even like
Abortion.
yeah, abortion, legalization of, you know, formerly recreational, you know, drugs or something like that. You know, they still speak ambiguously about it, or they would like change their message based on their audience, which always like bugs me too. Cause I remember, I think it was Hillary Clinton would even try and kind of like use like a regional accent to try to like relate to the audience where she was, and I don't know, so not the state.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, ¿qué pasó, pendejo?
Um, yeah, I missed that speech, but good. Yeah, thank you, Lance. Yep, his reply to the question was somewhat ambiguous, which is always frustrating, right? When you're like, no, I need a clear answer. Don't, you know, yeah. So very nicely done. I appreciate them all. I am being lazy. Did anyone else have a sentence to share? I'm sorry.
Miss Julie's cup is that big.
So
Mhm.
got her with an ambiguous smile.
An ambiguous smile. I love it. Yeah. I'm not quite sure if it has positive or negative intentions.
How about that? Ambiguous as a word.
Yes, technically the truth, Ryan. Well done. Ambiguous is a word. We can only speculate as to the intentions behind the ambiguous word. I like that. Good job, guys. Oopsie. Turn it. Get click happy. All right, cool. So here is our vocabulary journal. Like I said, once we get into the rhythm, I think, and we might not do this every day, but hopefully this is a useful activity, get you thinking about all of those things we have to demonstrate knowledge as far as words are concerned. All right, so we'll go back to that from time to time in class. Sorry, let me close my little tabs. Okay.
I need the restroom.
Yes, you may.
Pause.
Pardon?
Wait, till I get back.
Okay. All right, so what I'd like us to start with today is so if you go back to Canvas, we have warm up exercise 1. So if you click on that, and I have copies for my in-person folks, and I believe, yeah, the movie's ending is ambiguous. Beautiful, Valerie. Yep. Which once again, I'm like, sometimes I like it, other times not. If you've ever seen the original Italian Job, I guess it's
Is that
more like,
one with, what is his name, Mark Wahlberg?
that's the remake of it. The original is like from the 60s or 70s. It has Michael Caine in it when he was all young. Just exit out of it, should auto save. All right, so oops, I gave you guys, I turned it on the wrong side. Go ahead and start on the side with the table. Sorry, guys. All right, so like we said, we're gonna start this first unit where we're gonna kind of do a little bit of an overview, and then we're gonna dig in a little bit. So I want to start with this warm-up exercise. And this will probably be all that we'll get through today, but I'd like you guys to try it. So go ahead and I'm gonna put the link to it in the chat as well, if you guys need to open it and can open it from Canvas. But go ahead and work on these. It should hopefully feel fast and go well, but I want you guys to try this on your own. Just to kind of get a sense of how where your knowledge is. So sorry. All right. So there's 2 sides to this worksheet. Go ahead and do as much as you can. There's, no rush. So this first 8 sentences on this first page, you'll need to read each sentence, underline the transition word or phrase in each sentence. And so you have your list here in that left or right column of your box, your table. And then once you've underlined the transition word or phrase, then talk about the relationship. Is it an example? Is it time? Is it cause and effect? And you'll see those relationships, right, are in that left column. So for every kind of connection or relationship among the sentences or sentence, there is kind of a kind and then these kind of transition words. I call them signal words because they signal connection or the relationship. So go ahead and work on that. When you get to the second page or the back page, then now you need to insert the transition word, the best transition word to connect the sentences and express the ideas. Okay. So now you're going to insert transition word. Okay. So go ahead and get started on that. I'll give you guys, 10 minutes or so. See if you can get through them. Hopefully it goes fast and efficiently. If not, it's okay. But hopefully it doesn't feel too challenging.
Consequently. Flashing fingers.
Man. What's that?
If you.
Do you need a fresh paper
Sticker.
or? Okay. Yeah, I accidentally might have put the paper wrong side down on the desk as well. I apologize.
And I got down when the bird. Tapping my hands, fine.
Okay.
What did your ringtone say it was the time?
It says, oh bother.
Oh, I thought it said, ooh, Bob. I thought it said, hold on.
It's Winnie the Pooh saying, oh bother.
Yeah, I go blow my nose.
Of course.
I'm not back in 30 minutes. I'm Call of Duty on my phone.
Uh-oh. Thank God I'm your phone doesn't.
Okay.
It's okay. I understand. I seldom ever have to be in a completely distraction-free environment.
Oh. I don't know.
Are these yours?
They're just readers in case anyone needs a little bit of help seeing the screen better, magnifying the screen.
How does Harry Potter say it? Spectral components.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the classes. Hopefully this is still going all right. You guys need another 5 minutes or more? 10 minutes? Okay, no problem, no problem. That's why I asked.
I borrow these.
Sure.
Like,
I like when things get used.
I'm more intelligent already.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind.
That thing about my classroom is when we replicating that.
Yes.
So we have to use these in words for sentences.
No, did you? So for the first part, you underline the transition word or phrase and then choose what kind of relationship the sentences are showing, be it an example, a time relationship, or a cause-effect relationship. And then on the second, you need to choose one of these 3 signal words to insert into the sentences to make it make sense. So if you did that, there's kind of 2 little exercises on here, but like I said, I wanted to kind of dip my toe in the water and see where you guys are at, so kind of know where to build. So, another, 5 minutes or more, no rush.
Your transition. Action.
Okay, yeah, and just kind of keep trying to test them out as best you can. Think about those relationships, right? Is it something about time, like events in order? Is it about place? So we're kind of situating or describing in place and time. Cause and effect, right? Is there something that is creating an effect or something that we're kind of identifying a cause? Compare and contrast, right? Is it focused on similarities or differences? Is it just offering an example, right? Where we might have like a main idea and then an example of that idea. Order of importance, right? Or kind of our sequence. Excuse me, but maybe rather than steps, we're saying, right, this is gonna be kind of like maybe with problem solution, right? Everyone said, this is the best solution or kind of the most feasible one, but there are some other things too. Conclusion signals, we talked about those, right? As we're hopefully kind of wrapping up a piece of writing.
Yeah. a whole back page from where to go running.
Yeah, that's true. It is always kind of fun when they have the, kind of a theme, and so you get kind of a little story instead of random sentences that don't fit together, so yeah. Feel the rhythm. Classic. Okay.
And to come to
Okay.
I forgot. And Friday.
Mm-hmm. What do you? We finished?
Yeah.
Cool. How's everyone else doing? Anyone need more time? It's okay if you do. I know I gave you a big chunk to do, but I wanted once again to kind of get a sense of things. Robert, Mario, Tony, are you finished? Finished?
I lost track.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's why I stopped and I just didn't
That's okay.
see.
Valerie, Anita, how are you guys doing? Ready? Finished? How about anyone on Zoom? Does anyone want to need more time on this? Okay. So what did you guys think? Ryan said the second page was harder. What did the rest of you guys think? Was it easy, hard, normal? Hard? What do you feel like was hard? Finding the transition words or knowing the relationships? Wait, I'm asking you to wait. The transition words? Okay, Ryan? Oh, okay. Yeah, and I mean, this isn't like an extensive list, so it might have been a little challenging, but let's go ahead and see what we've got here. Okay, so in the 1990 Oscar Iwelos book, The Mambo Kings Played Songs of Love won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, and afterward it became a Hollywood film and a stage musical. So what did you underline as far as a transition word or phrase? Huh? B? No, okay, so you're saying it's a time relationship. What is the transition word that shows the time relationship? Afterward. Good. So you didn't do the first part of the directions is what you're saying?
The EAPT.
Okay. Good. So yes, right? So afterward is our transition word, and between, right, kind of two ideas to complete sentences is a really good place to often find these words. And afterward is signaling a time relationship, right? So it won the Pulitzer and then it became a film and stage music. All right, number 2. At first, Julia Alvarez was recognized as a poet. Today, she's best known for her novels including In the Time of Butterflies, which was made into a movie in 2001. Okay, good. And I would say also today, right? And actually, we could also say kind of compare and contrast because we're right saying at first poet, today novels, right? We're contrasting kind of the type of writing she's known for. But one thing we're going to see with these relationships is that, sometimes there's kind of a combo. So we could definitely call this a time relationship, and we're contrasting, right? Different points, or contrasting different things about her life across time. So it's kind of definitely a combo. All right, number 3, Rudolfo Anya was born. What? Thank you. Anaya was born in New Mexico. Consequently, his books reflect life in the Southwest. So what is our signal word and what is our relationship? Okay. And then what's our relationship? Oh, did you say that? And I didn't really. Good. So, and here, right, this is the cause, where he was born, the effect of course, where you're born generally tends to have effects on people. And so the effect of his birthplace was, right, the themes of his books. Beautiful. Isabel Allende includes magic realism in her books, a feature common to Latin American literature. As a result, she's one of Latin America's most celebrated writers. What's our transition word or phrase, and what's our relationship? So Kenneth, number 1, it's afterward and time. And then number 2, we have 2 signals, at first and today. And it's both a time and a compare. So we'll bear. Sorry, well, back to number 4. A, place. As a result. And what's the relationship? Cause and effect. Beautiful. Good. So once again, cause, and then as a result is always easy to remember because a result is also an effect. They're synonyms, right? So good. And so the one thing to pay attention to when you have a cause and effect relationship, and of course we'll dig into this more, is you want to know that some signal words, right, the effect comes after, some signal words, the cause comes after. So it can be effect and cause. You can kind of order those in multiple or in either way. Okay, number 5, Carlos Ruiz Zafón enjoys writing mysteries. For example, he set the main character of his book, The Shadow of the Wind, in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books.
Good pronunciation.
What?
Good pronunciation.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, 3, 1.
Yeah, thank you. But what is our transition word and what is our relationship? For example, good. And generally, right, if that's your transition, then the relationship you're showing is an example. This book sounds pretty good. This sounds pretty
Number 5, right?
Yeah.
Number 5.
Yeah. So for example is our transition phrase. And of course, for example, signals an example for reals. All right. Sandra Benitez began writing in 1980. Finally, in 1993, her book, A Place Where the Sea Remembers, was published.
I know it.
Okay. Time or conclusion? What do you guys think? I think either one kind of works.
Conclusion.
But I mean, there's definitely these kind of like time signals. Oh, was someone else weighing in and I didn't hear you on Zoom?
Conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think we could use either one. I would not have written the question that way because I think it is a little ambiguous, right? The relationships. Yes, Mario?
The definition of conclusion is like when somebody says something, but it's only based on statistic, right? It's not like a formal thing.
No, I mean, you can draw conclusions out of your butt if you want. I mean, you don't have to support it with evidence, but if you want it to be persuasive or believable or represent reality, then you would want to have evidence. But I mean, here, once again, I feel like it's a little bit more time, but I think choosing finally really shows, like, right, it took her 13 years, right? We can see that from the information in the sentence to finally kind of reach that goal of being like an official author, published author. So yeah, conclusion is really just like what comes at the very end. So like based on everything I've lined out, right, here's kind of the big picture, the gist, the overall message, the takeaway is more of what a conclusion. Unless I said too many things. All right. Number 7, Laura Esquivel's first book, Like Water for Chocolate. Como agua para chocolate. I love that book. Was released in 1989. Immediately, the book became a bestseller. It remained at the top of the bestseller list in Mexico for 3 years. Immediately, good. And what kind of relationship? Time. Yeah. I think they're kind of trying to trick us into thinking order of importance, but it's not really, it's just describing the book. But once again, we see this immediate, right, is that time relationship. And then number 8, Daniel Olivas is a busy California state attorney. However, he is also the writer of several books and a short story collection, Anywhere But LA.
However.
Okay. And then place. Compare and contrast. Yeah, so even though his book, I mean, yeah, it talks about California and stuff, I think the contrast, right, is busy and also the writer. So do you see the contrast there, Ryan? And however is definitely signaling the contrast. It's not like, remember, if we go up here, words of place are going to be like our prepositions that tell us kind of where things are in a space.
What is the name for Julio's?
I thought I was highlighting the answers, kind of hopefully you can see. What was that, Mario?
Name is from Julio's.
This guy? Character in the book. All right, so yeah, definitely, even if there's kind of something mentioned there, we are wanting to make that connection between the transition word or phrase and the relationship it signals. And so however would it really ever signal a place? However is always going to signal a difference. And so you want to look on either side of your however to find those points of contrast, okay?
Julie,
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to check my answers.
Mhm.
What's the answer for 2, 3, and 4, and 5?
Okay, so number 2, we have two signal words and 2 relationships. We could think of it as a time relationship. So we have at first, you can't see my highlights on the screen. You can't see the orange here. Am I not sharing the screen? I'm sharing the screen. So number 2, the answer at first and today, and then it is, you could think of it as a time relationship or compare and contrast. So number 2, you could have A or C. I think C is, well, I mean, the signals are time signals. So once again, yeah, we're trying to kind of decide. And then number, so that was number 2, Kenneth. Number 3, our signal word is consequently. And that's a cause and effect relationship. Number 4, as a result is our signal. Yep. Cause and effect is the relationship also. Number 5, for example, which signals an example. Number 6, our signal is finally. And I think we're mostly calling that a conclusion, but A and C are good answers for number 6. Number 7, immediately is our signal word, which is for time. And then number 8, however, and compare and contrast. Hopefully,
Okay, thank you.
no problem. Thank you for letting me know I needed to slow down. All right. So now we're gonna talk about bobsledding, very appropriate for late August, of course. Okay. So now we just need to insert the best signal word. So bobsledding is a winter sport. It is no surprise that the sport began in Switzerland. What did you guys choose there?
There.
Therefore, good. Right? Cause, winter, effect, began in Switzerland, where there's actual winter, right? There are the Alps. Okay. Number 2, length, runners were made of wood, later runners were made of steel. What do you guys choose for number 2? At first. So we have kind of this time sequence, and of course, the second sentence, right, also has that time signal to kind of help us. If we were going to use the word meanwhile, what would we be saying if we use those to talk about 2 events? Is it like a sequence of events, or what does meanwhile tell us?
Like, and,
What did you say, Robert?
later on, maybe.
Usually I use meanwhile as saying at the same time, right? While and meanwhile, so you can have like an order or a sequence of events. Meanwhile, we could also have multiple, you guys are learning it, meanwhile I'm teaching. Right?
Also at the same time.
Yeah, so when you think about time, sometimes we have that really clear sequence, other times we might have multiple events happening at the same time. So just always kind of be aware of that. So simultaneously would be another signal for that. And even just while by itself, right? Okay, number 3, early bobsled passengers couldn't help but bob their heads as they race. People called this sport bobsledding. Yeah, or in conclusion, either one would kind of work, but I think consequently sounds better. What do you guys think? Did anyone choose A for number 3? I would say A kind of works, but consequently I think sounds better, because once again, the bobbing of their heads is the cause for the choice of name. So I think, yeah, cause and effect sounds better there. Number 4, today some ice tracks are natural. Most bobsledders compete on tracks made of concrete and covered in ice. So what's our signal word there? Well, okay, so the first sentence is telling us one thing about one kind. However, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense, right? So if some are natural, as a result of that, we made fake, like artificial person made. But yeah, so we have a clear contrast there, right? Tracks are natural, tracks made of concrete. You covered it. I don't remember if it was in Wyoming or Colorado, but we went down to like this sled on like wheels, on like a wheeled sled. It's intense. All right, probably not safe for people anymore. Number 5, all standard ice tracks are 1,500 meters long. Tracks vary in difficulty.
So that's all.
Well, if they're all the same length, does that mean that because of that, the effect is that they vary in difficulty? Do you think it's a cause and effect? Or would we say for that reason, the tracks vary in difficulty? Or nevertheless, tracks vary in difficulty. You guys like as a result, what do you guys think about number 5? This one's kind of tricky.
I think C.
C? What did you say, Valerie? For that reason.
For that reason.
Yeah, for that reason, I mean, they're kind of signaling the same thing, but I think this gives it sounds better, and which is really good, right? We are native speakers of English, so your ear should be somewhat attuned, right, to kind of being like, that didn't sound very natural Englishy. Not that it could be necessarily wrong, but yeah. Nevertheless, it's kind of a funky transition signal. It's kind of a contrast, but it's also kind of a specialized category where we're like, you can kind of say all of this stuff is the case, nevertheless. So it kind of works for like problems and stuff like that. But, you don't see that used super often. All right, number 6, being a tropical island, Jamaica has its own bobsled team. The team competed for the first time in the Calgary Olympic Games of 1988. B, good, in spite of. And so this is kind of, once again, we'd probably call that a contrast signal because we have this idea of, right, tropical island, right, versus bobsled. So it's like, even though this is the case, this kind of surprising thing is still the way it goes. All right, the Jamaican team had far less experience than most bobsled teams. The team experienced technical problems, crashes, and injuries.
Consequently,
Good. And so there we have that cause and effect, right? So the cause, right, far less experience. So what was the effect? Okay. And so, like I said, it's always important when you kind of detect the signal and you know what relationship it shows to always kind of say, okay, if it is cause and effect, I want to go back into my main sentence or passage and really identify, okay, what is the cause? Consequently, what was the effect? Okay, and you should be able to find that, and it's going to be helpful and important to do that, to make that connection. All right, number 8. Got 4 minutes. Some teams might have quit sledding altogether. The Jamaican team pushed on, improving their performance in the next Olympics. Good. So once again, we have this transition, might have quit versus pushed on. So once again, when I figure out that there's that contrast signal, or that's the best connector, then I want to find the point of contrast. Okay. Right? Where is the difference? Well, you know, I don't like crashing and getting injured and having problems. All right, in Jamaica, people use homemade push carts to transport materials. Farmers use push carts to carry food to markets. B. Yep. So we should always have something kind of general, right? And then a specific example showing it in more detail. 10, push carts have practical purposes. They are also used in racing. Yeah, nevertheless is probably good here because once again, we're kind of contrasting that idea of practical purposes. And I don't think anyone would say racing is a practical thing. It's definitely a fun thing. But I can't think of a situation where I'd say, oh, it would be practical to race right now. Yeah, no. Maybe, I guess if we were doing sports or something, if we were training. Okay, number 11, racing push carts have become more technologically advanced. They can reach downhill speeds of more than 60 miles per hour. Good. So once again, the cause is technological advance. And what is the effect? Right? Speed, more speed. That's fast. I don't think I want to, I don't like going downhill fast, period. Anyway, so. Probably not for me. Push cart racing has inspired present and future bobsledders. The Jambob or Jamaican bobsled team had government support and a growing number of fans.
I George, hey.
Good. So kind of that order of importance, what is, you know, the ultimate kind of reason or something. All right. So good job on this, you guys. Are there any final questions in the last minute of class? All right, so we're gonna dive into this more on Monday, but I thought we had a really good time. Hopefully you guys are feeling like this is useful and interesting, and yeah. There is math tomorrow. Hopefully I'll see y'all.